Well, welcome back, everyone, to our series, Why Christians Should Keep the Law. And, over the last couple of episodes, we've been looking at Mark 7 and really discovering that Jesus never cleansed or declared unclean food as per the law of Moses. All those animals that are deemed to be unclean, he never declared them to become clean, but rather reinforced the law of Moses in his discussion with these Pharisees by making a distinction between their thoughts and their commandments and that of God's by actually drawing from the law of Moses. Well, I want to continue down this discussion, down this path a little bit in this same vein, which, if you remember, what started this whole thing was Acts 15:20. The fact that what would be commanded upon the Gentiles, the first things given to them would explicitly, 3 of the 4 are food laws. And that is so significant to our discussion as a whole. And so what I want to do is I want to take you to Acts chapter 10 today. And the reason I want to take you to Acts chapter 10, because so often today in Christianity, many understand that the vision that Peter had was actually an instruction to go eat those things that were formerly in the law of Moses considered to be an abomination. That this somehow, Peter's vision that he has is God declaring that we're, as Christians, beginning with Peter, commanded to eat unclean food, that this is somehow now part of the Christian faith and the expression thereof. Well, we're going to go to Acts chapter 10 and we're going to look at this. And beginning with, when you go to Acts chapter 10, Peter enters into this trance. He's fasting. He goes into this trance. He's hungry. And what he sees is this sheet, or something like a sheet, bound at 4 corners, and it's being lowered to the earth. And inside, there are all these unclean animals and beasts, wild beasts and creeping things and birds of the air. There are all these things. And Peter's looking at this as it comes down. And then he hears the Lord say, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." And what is Peter's response to this? Well, we pick it up in verse 14. Peter said, "Not so, Lord, for I've never eaten anything common." And common here, this Greek term koinon, or in its uninflected koinos, this is referring to nevala and terapha in the Hebrew. In other words, we're dealing with a clean animal that we have been permitted to eat, but has become defiled. Now, this would include if an animal had died of natural causes, fell off a mountain, broke its neck. It was a deer. We can eat a deer, but now it's broke its neck. It's died of natural causes, or maybe it died of a disease. Peter's saying, I never touched that. I never ate an animal that has been torn by beasts, terapha. Peter has never eaten an animal that was offered, even though it's clean, offered to an idol, or food that has been strangled. He's never done any of that. He's never eaten anything koinon, nothing common. A clean food that has become defiled. And then he goes common, or akatharton, which is to say unclean. And that would mean the swine, the camel, the rabbit, etc. All those animals. He's never participated in that. But the Lord has told him, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." And his response is, "Not so, my Lord." Well, look at this. It goes on. It says, "And a voice spoke to him again the second time. What God has cleansed, you must not call common." Now get this. Verse 16, this was done 3 times, and the object was taken up into heaven again. Now take this in. 3 times God tells Peter, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." And of course, Peter's response is "Not so, my Lord. I've never eaten anything common or unclean." And then God responds by saying, "What God has cleansed, you must not call common." We're told this happens 3 times. Now, this is significant. The fact that it happens 3 times. Now, when people look at this, they come to the conclusion, well, clearly is Peter that daft? Is he that, stupid? God is just simply telling him to eat unclean food. Well, Peter knows that is not the situation, because as we go to verse 17, pay close attention. He says, now, while Peter wondered within himself what this vision, which he had seen, meant. Peter understands this is not literal. And let me make another point that is of the utmost importance. Peter never ate. Peter never rose, killed, and ate. I mean, this much we know from reading the story. Instead, it's this engagement with the Lord 3 times of rise, Peter, kill, and eat, and Peter responding, not so. I can't do this, Lord. He knows, and so he gets out of this trance, out of this vision, and he's baffled. What does this mean? He's considering this. Well, as we go to verse 19, we read this. While Peter thought about the vision, the Spirit said to him, behold, 3 men are seeking you. Now, do you think it is a coincidence that these particular men are what Scripture from Old and into the New Testament are called unclean, would be expressed by an unclean beast, such as the jackals and ostriches, such as dogs, which Gentiles is so oftentimes referred to, even in the New Testament, and even in the Psalms, is referred to dogs. This certainly would have been probably one of those animals that Peter saw in this vision where God is telling him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. No, what? Not so, Lord. Well, now he has, and the fact that happened 3 times, now he has 3 men at his door, unclean beasts, if you will. In verse 28, then he said to them, you know how unlawful it is for a Jewish man to keep company with or go to one of another nation. But God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Peter finally gets the download. He understands through the power of the Spirit that, oh, I get it now. What he was showing me is that I am not to call Gentiles common or unclean because God has cleansed them. And how did God cleanse the Gentiles? So that they could become one with the Jew through faith in Jesus. That is what Acts 10 is all about. It's about the grace and mercy that God would show to all humanity because of the beloved love of his son, Jesus. With that said, the Lord bless you and keep you.